Hi, this is Joe again with another review, and this time we'll be discussing a television show. And since a little more than 3 months, or 2 months, the fifth season of Happy Days is finally going to come out on DVD. And if and when they get that, I'm going to do a review on it. But since the season 5 is finally coming out on DVD, it's several lawsuits and everything else, I think it would be appropriate to discuss the other previous seasons that are out on DVD. And of course, the first season, which came out in, excuse me, I think in 2003, in 2003, early 2004, in conjunction with at that time, the 30th anniversary of the show. And of course, the first season, which, well, actually the first year and a half, the Happy Days, the series has not gotten any high ratings. And what a lot of people don't know was that Happy Days actually came out of a skit that appeared on another show that aired on ABC in the early 70s called Love American Style. And there was one particular skit. I don't know if that skit was actually called Happy Days or not. I don't remember, but I believe you can find it on YouTube. I think so. I'm not sure. And you have a skit where you have the Cunninghams in it, but they have different. I think Melanie Ross was in it. I'm not sure. But you had different actors playing I think you had different parents playing the parents, or Mr. and Mrs. C. But you did have Ron Howard in it, playing Richie Cunningham, and you had Anson Williams playing Poxy. But I think that's about it. But that skit became popular, so you had made a television show out of that. So here's what they did show us the cover. Here's the cover of the first DVD set. Here's the cover of the first set. And this is a 3-disc set. And like I said, it came out Love American Style, and they have a 3-disc set. And the very first actual episode came out or aired on ABC on January 15th, 1974. So the series started 40 years ago. I can't believe the series is that old already. And of course, the first episode was called All the Way, and it's an episode where Party sets Richie up on a date with a girl who's known to fool around with every guy that she goes on a date with, and he expects to go all the way with this girl, and that doesn't turn out to be the case. But that was the story, and a lot of the episodes in the first season, as well as the second season, are just stories. I mean, it does have a beginning, a middle, and the end. It does have some, occasionally funny moments or a funny line, but most of it is just stories, and kind of like the stories that you had in Love American Style, but instead of having, like, say, a 10 or 15 minute sketch, it was a full 25 minute episode. So it's like stretched it out, padded it out to fit the half-hour format. So the ratings for the first year and a half weren't doing very well. But to continue with this series, so a lot of these episodes, even though it aired reruns since then, but when they originally aired, they didn't have such high ratings. And of course, they did have some funny episodes. Like the second episode that aired was one where Richie and Potsy split and the money together to buy a car, which was a dud, and they took the dates out. And of course, they don't want to give it away, but the spoiler, the car landed in the lake, and of course, it turned out to be a complete disaster. And of course, the third episode of the series is called Richie's Cup Falleth Over. And Richie goes with Potsy because Potsy's cousin was getting married and he was a Marine, and they go to a bachelor party and Richie gets drunk. And so, oh, I drink beer. Glass of beer. And teeny weeny glasses. Mr. C says, how many teeny weeny glasses did you have? It's 72. So, of course, there was it. And of course, he had typical stuff that happened during the 1950s in this series. I think the series was like a 55 or 56, around there. And of course, he had other episodes about drag racing, which was the third episode, which was guess who's coming to visit when Friday's challenge to a drag race. And of course, one of the funny episodes was when Richie and Patsy wanted to join a gang called the Demons, and they go through all these challenges that, like, if you a fraternity, you have to do all these little gags. And of course, the last gag they did was when they cross-dressed and wore a dress to a dance, to a sock hop. And of course, Richie and Patsy standing in the corner, and here comes Fonzie, played by Henry Winkler. He comes in and says, "Oh, let's dance." It's dancing with Richie, and of course, Richie's whispering in his ear, "Fonzie, Fonzie," and his eyes bug out. And of course, there was the first real, funny episode of the first season. But like I said, most of these episodes are just stories. Like when Fonzie was supposed to be a dropout, goes back into school and drops out again. Of course, one with Richie and Patsy used fake IDs to get into a strip club, so it's like typical episodic stuff that happens in the television show during that time. And it's based during the 70s and throughout the 80s, or early 80s. They had typical stuff that we would see in a television show in the 50s and 1960s. Because this show was supposed to be based in the 1950s. So you have those types, so kids today who never seen Happy Days, unless in reruns or on TV Land, they don't, relate to it. Because me, I grew up on this show, and it wasn't until about like 94, 95, where I think Nick and Knight bought the rights to it, and of course it was never seen on regular television again, which is a shame because kids don't see. Because for people who can't afford cable, the kids cannot see, the shows that either their parents grew up on or when I grew up on. And thanks to the power of DVDs, you can see all these classic television shows. And like I said in the previous review for Seinfeld, you can't compare this show to Seinfeld. This show is so much better. Of course, they had. Of course, the third desk on the set, it did have a couple of, I don't want to say controversial episodes at the time, but episodes that, people could recognize that this is a good show. Was when one episode where you meet Beatniks, which is an episode called Great Expectations, and when Richie comes involved with a beatnik crowd, which was, at that time was made fun of. And I don't even know if they even beatniks today. But they were then in the 50s and 60s. It was also made fun of with some cartoons as well. Like remember a Popeye cartoon from the 1960s made fun of beatniks. But one of the other episodes called The Best Man was when Richie's old army buddy, who happened to be black, who was getting married, and Howard decides to become the guy's best man. He had all this racial stuff in the neighborhood. Because the neighborhood found out that they have a black wedding in the house. And of course, that's, what that episode was. And of course, the other episode, which was the last episode of the first season, was when Matt Howard decides to build a bomb shelter in the backyard. And of course, at that time, 1950s, it was at the height of the Cold War, and of course, people were buying and building bomb shelters. And there were people who actually built bomb shelters who were afraid of the Russians dropping a bomb on us. But in terms of so Howard decides to build it, and then when the whole neighborhood found out about it, then he decided to not have anybody extra in the bomb house, just the family. And of course, all the friends got mad, and then they decided not to have the bomb shelter anymore after that. But in terms of the first season, the first was, the episodes were good. I'm not saying the episodes weren't lousy. But compared to the other seasons, you figure, how in the world did this show last 11 years? But the episodes they had not only in the first season, but also in the second season. So we're eventually going to do a review of the second season as well. And season 2, season 3, and season 4. But for season number 1, that's my brief review of it. But of course, in season 5, what Happy Days was, I'm going to get to season 5 in a minute, a brief thing on that. But Happy Days was one of the best shows on TV. I was 3, not even 3 years old, when Happy Days first came on the air. And I was actually 2.5, actually, when the show started. And of course, I became a fan of the show ever since. And to say that this show is not, to say Seinfeld is a better show than Happy Days, you can say an interview, you're nuts. Your TV guy is crazy. To say that Seinfeld was the best show. I know we're going back to that. But for season 5, they actually had the term "jump the shark" from the first 3 episodes of season 5. And of course, starts off with a 3-part story arc with Fonzie going to Hollywood for a screen test. And of course, he didn't get the part. Richie actually did. And of course, we wonder what happened. He doesn't sign the contract for the studio anyway. Spoiler. But the reason why they call it "Jump the Shark" was because there was the second of 3 famous stunts that Fonzie did during the course of the series. And he jumped over the killer shark. I don't think it was a big white shark. It was a man-eating shark that was pinned in this area. And he gets challenged to jump the shark by a professional water skier. And he does jump over the shark. Successfully, of course. And of course, because of that episode, many fans and critics felt that the show died out after that. So they call it "Jump the Shark." Because when a television show or a movie series jumps the shark, we figure it was like the one moment that the series dies or the movie franchise dies for either the one particular scene or the one particular episode or one particular movie where that series dies out. And the funny thing is, the show lasted another 6 years after that incident. They had plenty of good, a ton of good episodes, especially in season 5. They had plenty of good episodes in season 5. I don't know exactly which ones yet, because I have an idea which ones won that season. But the saying that the show was lousy after that is ridiculous. The time that the Happy Days went downhill was when Ron Howard left the show to direct movies, and Donnie Most, who this character here played Ralph Malph. When William left the show, I think after the 6th season, or either the 6th or after the 7th season, they both left the series. You can say Ron Howard to direct movies, and I don't know why Donnie Most left, but he left the same time on the same season as Ron Howard did, and that's when the series died, when the 2 of them left, because the show was built around Ron Howard, and Fonzie, or the Henry Winkler character, became so popular that they wanted to, halfway through, by the time they made the 3rd season, wanted to make it to Fonzie's Happy Days. And Gary Marshall said no, who created the show. And Henry Winkler also said forget it, because they approached him for it and changed the title. And he says no. As long as Ron Howard is on the show, he gets top billing and the episodes surround him. Which of course is what what happened when, like I said, when Ron Howard left to direct movies, they made Henry Winkler get the top billing, make a second billing to Ron Howard. And the reason why Don Most got voted because he had two redheads, Ron Howard and Don Most. And the reason why they created the character of Ralph Malph because originally Don Most auditioned for Richie Cunningham, which is of course the part that Ron Howard eventually got. But they liked Don Most so much, so they gave him the part of Ralph Malph and created the Ralph Malph character for him. So he made an original character that wasn't originally in the series. When the series was first, started, when the concept of the series was, there was no Ralph Malph character. Until, of course, they felt wanted to hire Donnie Most as well because the producers liked him, Gary Marshall liked him, so they created the part for him. So that's my review of, of course, a lot of the episodes, which I should tell you before I close the review. A lot of the episodes you see Henry Winkler was supposed to be the Fonz. Somebody like this tough motorcycle biker guy. And he wore a leather jacket. But a lot of the episodes, especially the first two seasons, he wore a polyester jacket. Because the censors didn't like the fact that he was like promote gang violence and all that type of thing. So he wore a polyester jacket. And a lot of the episodes, if he's not with the motorcycle, he has to wear the polyester jacket. The game motion got around that, so he's with the motorcycle all the time. So he wears the leather jacket, that's how they got around it. So that's my review of season 1 of Happy Days. And maybe eventually get to do the other series as well. Thank you for the other seasons, I should say. Thank you for watching. Please like the video, please feel free to comment on and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.